This is the notification. So we are all set for a productive day. I cordially welcome all of you to the day 8 and the 22nd lecture of the National Interdisciplinary Refresher course, The Quintessential Educator, Challenges and Opportunities in a Changing World, being brought by the IQAC of ARST College in collaboration with the Ministry of Education's PMMM NMTT Teaching Learning Center, Ramanujan College, University of Delhi. Friends, learning is the part of ARST culture. Refresher courses are valuable to us, and we take them very seriously as they help us in competence and capacity building, in solving pedagogical issues and creating innovative ideas. In the previously held sessions in the week earlier, we have looked at various dimensions of higher education, even talked about the need to adapt, adopt, change as per the needs of the new age learners, the Gen Z. We also discussed changing paradigms during the pandemic with senior professors, scholars, and experts of various disciplines. With Professor Malin Nirav and with Professor Ujjwal Singh, our narrative broadened, and we got to understand that teaching can be provocative. Via Upendra Bakshi, I'm using this term. Professor Gopeshwar Singh talked about the human face of education, the need to diversify, and so on and so forth. And yet a very important point that we still would like to discuss in an elaborate manner is multilingual education with respect to educators, setting more realistic examples in the society for the goals of equity, diversity, and inclusion. All of us being aware that we have inherited this multilingual, multicultural country of ours. So we are aware of the diversity and the abundance, that we have in terms of linguistic, literary, and as well as cultural traditions. So we talk about, the languages, the number of languages that we use in our day-to-day purposes. 47, according to a study, 47 languages are used in education as the medium of instruction. 87 are used in press, 71 in radio, 13 in cinema, 13 in state administration. So today, in order to talk about the various challenges that this multiplicity of linguistic, literary, cultural tradition poses in the classrooms before us as educators, we have with us two very leading academicians, educators themselves, and who have done creditable and commendable researchers in the field of language teaching, and who have enriched the language learning experience for our students in the last several decades. So it's my pleasure and honor both to introduce before you Professor Rama Matthew, who is an ELT consultant and who retired as Professor of Education from the University of Delhi, where she was also Dean of Faculty of Education. She taught at the EFL University Hyderabad for several years. She was head of the Research, Monitoring and Evaluation Unit of English in Action project in Bangladesh. She has been involved in several teacher development and assessment projects and has published articles and books in various national and international journals. She was a lead mentor for ARMS, that is Action Research Mentoring Scheme, and for ELT Research Mentoring Scheme, both British Council funded schemes. She has also completed work on a project in Sierra Leone where she supported teachers to carry out classroom-based research. Her research interests include language assessment, teaching English to young learners, CPD of teachers, multilingual education, and making English accessible to learners online. A very warm welcome, Rama ma'am, from ARST family, especially from the participants of the refresher course. I'm also delighted to welcome Dr. Tulika Prasad, Professor Tulika Prasad, who is Professor of English at Satyawati College, University of Delhi. She is an academician with a vast experience of designing, developing, and delivering language learning materials. She has conducted research, authored, edited books, published articles, research papers in UGC journals and peer-reviewed journals, and has developed excellent course modules for language proficiency and oral proficiency courses for IGNOU and ELPC course, Delhi University. She has held numerous administrative and academic positions in the university in her long tenure as a professor of English. And she has also been the coordinator of English language proficiency course and NUSSD DU TIS project. And I welcome you, ma'am, for the presentation. And without much further ado, I now hand it over to Professor Matthew for further deliberation on the subject, Understanding Multilingual Education as an Educator. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this, for first of all, asking me to be part of this whole program. And it looks like the participants have already had a very rich exposure to a lot of interesting and very useful talks and discussions and everything. And I hope what we have planned, Tulika, my colleague from Satyawati College, and I would be of use to you and would be something that you will value and take back with you to your colleges and do something about it. Because learning about something is so interesting, but then how do we implement it? How do we interpret it is quite an important issue for teachers. So we hope some of that will be possible. And so we just begin our presentation. I'll begin with this and Tulika will join me as we go along. Here is the PowerPoint that we have. We call this Understanding Multilingual Education as an Educator. We thought all of us are educators. So as educators, how do we understand multilingual education is our sort of concern this morning. And as we were planning this and getting our slides ready, we were sort of a little confused or a little unsure about what kinds of things would be of relevance to you in a 1.5 hour presentation, because there's a lot actually to know and to be able to do. And a lot of research has gone into this. Therefore, I think it's going to be a sort of limited presentation, but then I hope all of you, because you're all multilingual educators, would be interested in continuing with this and taking it forward. So what do we have for this morning's presentation? We are giving you an overview. First, what is multilingualism? Of course, we all know it. Shubha has elaborated on it sufficiently, but we just look at some sort of definitions and the concept involved in that. And then we will locate ourselves. When I say we are pedagogues or educators and teachers in colleges who are all participants on this program, including Shubha and Tulika and me and all of us. We are already using multilingual pedagogies, as you all know, because we don't use just one language, and we switch from one language to another in our daily lives and also in our classrooms, because that's our reality. So how we'll see what we have been doing, what we are doing. And then we will look at some other multilingual strategies and look at some examples of how we can use them in our classrooms, because we need to be more strategic in our use of multilingual strategies. And then, of course, we conclude, and we'll also look at if multilingual assessment is possible. That is, use of multilingual strategies is possible in assessment of languages as well, because we have a Hindi test or an English test or Sanskrit test or whatever, whichever language we study. But then is a multilingual approach possible in assessment at all? So you will be in for some shocks or some provocative statements by us, and I hope we will have a lot of discussion around this. So discussion is not just at the end. Please keep putting your questions in the chat box. Is that allowed, Shubha? Is that possible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Definitely.
Please keep putting your questions and comments in the chat box, and we'll keep looking at it and we'll try and address it. And there'll be a lot of spaces when we'll ask you a question, and we really would like it to be very interactive and not just one-sided talk. Okay, what is multilingualism? I'll just read it very quickly and highlight one or two points here. Multilingualism is based on the fundamental human ability to be able to communicate in several languages. That is, several languages is important, and describes, just a minute, a phenomenon embedded in cultural development. Shubha already pointed this out. We bring a very rich cultural heritage, which also includes many languages. Therefore, it's marked by high cultural sensitivity. Multilingualism conveys the ability of societies, institutions, groups, and individuals to have regular use of more than one language. So there are many named languages like Hindi, Telugu, and Tamil, and so on. But there are also, there are lots of languages which cross over to other. The boundaries are all sort of blurred. That's also a characteristic of multilingualism. And who is a multilingual speaker? He's a competent user of more than one language, depending on the need and context of the language to be used. So while I know 3 or 4, I won't be using all 3 or 4 in all circumstances, but I'll use it according to my audience, according to the need, according to the context, and so on. Just want to check at this point, is there anybody who knows only one language among the participants? Would you like to put that? If you have a chat box, you can put that in there. Nobody, I guess.
Ravinda, can you enable the chat box right away, please?
Yeah, okay. So
it is enabled.
Yeah. So if I'm sure we all know at least 2 languages, if not 3 or 4. And how did we acquire it, and how do we actually use it in order to enrich our communication is the question. And we want to be able to do it better and better as multilinguals. We are not monolinguals. And next one, a multilingual classroom is one in which there are students who know and use 2 or more languages in their home and community and bring it to the classroom as well. Now, we would like to see classroom as an extension of the community. Although we are here in the classroom to sort of, gain academic expertise, both in reading and writing. And therefore, the languages that we use in the community should be developed further to enrich this academic endeavor. So that's what a multilingual classroom will be used for, is a place for. What is our role as teachers? Each of us teachers, regardless of whether we teach language, like Tulika and me, we are English teachers, and many others here are English teachers, or Hindi teachers as a subject, or teach another subject such as chemistry, psychology, maths. So we want to make this point that all of us, regardless of the subject we teach, we are language teachers, because it's through language that we convey things, convey ideas, convey concepts, and in the process of engaging with the content, both at the receptive and productive levels. I'll just tell you what we mean by receptive and productive. Receptive is where we try and, use this mental process to understand, to receive, to listen to, and so on, read, and so on. Productive is we actually produce, we convey, we write, we speak, and so on. So these are 2 levels, as it were, in language. So we need to sharpen this language, both sides of it, and go on improving it. Some are better readers than writers. It's in fact more difficult to write than read, more difficult to speak than listen, and so on. So it's almost like receptive comes first and then productive comes later. But then as language teachers, by which I mean subject teachers and language, we have that responsibility towards learners improving and developing this language at both the levels. And we are multilinguals, both of us, teachers and students, and we have a host of languages within our repertoire. We use these languages at different levels of competence and in different contexts and purposes. So we need to become aware of this, and we need to sort of celebrate this. We shouldn't ignore it. We shouldn't make our students feel a little guilty that they are Haryanavi speakers or Bhojpuri speakers, but then we need to acknowledge it and respect it. Respect is the word we are going to use many times, I think. If the medium of instruction is English in our class, we try and use only English at the cost of, what has happened? Do we try and use only English at the cost of ignoring other languages? Think about this question for a few moments and write your answer in the chat box if possible. Many of you are English medium teachers, or probably all, I don't know. But if you're an English medium teacher, would you be not sort of showing any kind of, what do you call it? Any kind of acknowledgement towards other languages in the English medium class, because of course English is to be developed and it's the medium of instruction. What do you do? Think about this question and put it in the chat box for now. How does the teacher normally enable understanding in the classroom? This is coming in the way of my... Okay. Teachers in most multilingual contexts use translation because we have access to more than one language. And usually the learner's mother tongue or the classroom language, lingua franca, if you like. And we do it through translation and code switching. Code switching is to borrow, easier words, vocabulary items, and so on from the native language to explain concepts and information to students. This comes very easily to us, like drinking water for the fish. They use the home or local language to explain information that students need to learn English, both teachers and students. And then they often write notes on the chalkboard only in English. Is that true? Most teachers do this. I'm at least aware that, in many classrooms, both school and college, while a lot of talking goes on in 2-3 languages, what gets written on the board is usually English, because that's the official medium of instruction, or that's what we are trying to say. That's more important. Come on, it's okay to use Hindi for understanding, but not for writing kind of a message that's going on. Code switching or translanguaging, we'll come to understand what translanguaging means. It's alternating between students' languages and English in a very fluid and facile way. Code switching is where we use particular words or expressions, and because it's easy for me and that is so deshi and so on. But translanguaging is where it's, it's almost like I possess 2 languages and it's 2 or 3 languages and all the nuances, and I use it for effect sometimes. So I keep switching deliberately, consciously, and for effect. So translanguaging is done to help students understand the content of lessons. If it's done systematically, it's a good teaching practice. So we are saying using more than one language systematically and in a principled way is very good teaching practice, but not translation as a default teaching methodology, so that students wait for you to say it in their mother tongue and they're not listening to English. It becomes a practice of the classroom. So try and look out for this. But this alternating of 2 or more languages needs to be in both spoken and written form, so that students can develop strong reading and writing. So this is a very important point that we want to underline. So just writing in English on this board and conveying this message that, look, translation or using more than English is okay for understanding, but when it comes to answering your scripts, doing your exams or something, better know that it's English. That message we have conveyed right from grade 1. We'll examine this later. Translanguaging is used purposefully to encourage students to work through a normal process of language learning, mixing, switching, interpreting, towards being able to use 2 or more languages as independent and separate languages. In fact, I realized that when I came to Delhi from the South, in the South, English was more a formal official language. But in the North, I think it's used in a very fluid way and for effect, as I said. So I started to use it like that. And there were many academic and also high-level discussions, if you like, even with the VC, where we switched languages in a very easy way. It's not that the VC didn't know English enough or I didn't know English enough, but then that's the code. That's the code, and there's nothing wrong. It's such a rich sort of atmosphere that we live in, actually. Okay. Now, about the policies. The national education policy, which was released recently, which is going to be implemented soon, and Delhi University is already sort of into a lot of discussion around it and so on. We need to understand it. But this is not the first time the policy has emphasized multilingualism as a need, multilingual education as a need. So let's see what this most recent policy is saying. I'll give you half a minute. Please read through this. It says it's a necessity. Would anyone like to sort of come in at this point and say something about what they think of this? Do you think multilingualism, multilingual education enriches us intellectually and culturally, and it allows us to, learn better at a higher level of cognitive complexity? Because they are saying a multilingual India is better educated and also better nationally integrated. The second part, I agree, also better nationally integrated, but what about better educated? So is there anyone who wants to sort of, say something different, or would you like to do that? In the chat box?
Nuanced writing or a text, I would say. I mean, it can have multiple interpretation. It focuses on different points.
Okay.
Yes, I would request our participants to come up with their responses.
Anyone among the participants who have something to say at this point? Is multilingualism we can't avoid. We live in that kind of a environment. We live in that context. But then multilingual education, that is enabling our students to use as many languages as they have in the classroom, is it a good thing? Is it going to be good for them? Or are we making a khichdi out of all the languages? And they are not good at any. That's the question I'm raising. No comment at this point?
Ma'am, I think is better educated because, at least till the primary education, if you use their mother tongue or their regional language, education means learning, connecting with the concepts. Like if I, talk to a kid from my village in Rajasthan and I tell him B for burger, he might not even associate with that. And that way it would be tough. But if I, pick up something from the original, life or pace of life, I think they can recall that for a longer time because they can connect with that.
Okay.
So I think that way it can really help.
Okay. All right. Culturally relevant. Any one more comment?
Okay, participants, you can raise your hands. We will, unmute you. I think the host has the right to unmute participants. They won't be able to unmute on their own.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So you can raise your hands if you want to.
Or put a question in the chat box. I can't
or
see.
You can write your views in the chat box. There is one comment from Tulika, and she says that perhaps it's important to emphasize that language is ideally just a medium, but this was written earlier. I think this was in different context. That she says that language is ideally just a medium, and it's possible to understand the importance of mastering any language, and the proficiency in any language is equally fruitful. In fact, it's proficiency rather than the choice of language that should be emphasized. And Dr. Ajit Kumar says, does multilingualism have anything to do with intellectuality?
No, not at all. All of us are multilinguals and we have different intellectual capacities, if you like. But our multilingualism is where, I'm just answering in a straight, direct way. But yeah. So Kuljit Kaur is saying, no, it's not better educated. So why do you say that, Kuljit? Kuljit, can you unmute her?
Ravinder, can you please unmute Kuljit Kaur?
We'll go ahead now, but after Kuljit has said something, because it's a...
Just wait a minute, ma'am. Kuljit, please, can you please unmute? I have asked you to mute. Kuljit ma'am, you need to unmute by yourself. Sorry.
Okay, if it's going to take time, Kuljit can put her comment down. What she means by no, they are not better educated, she's saying. Yeah, it is. Shikha is saying it's multilingualism, just knowing. Knowing what? Or proficiency in more than one language, sure. But then can you use it to your advantage? Can you use it to improve your learning itself, improve your perspective, improve your world knowledge? Now Ajit Kumar is saying something. This this needs to be addressed. What we are going to do is, I have an idea about what you're thinking. So we'll address this definitely. Okay. Kuljit has not come back. It's okay. We have more time. We'll do
Could
that.
I speak, please?
Are you Kuljit?
No, this is Shiva.
This is our colleague, Dr. Shubhani Pukan from the English department of ERST College.
Okay. Yeah. Speak.
Yeah, no, what I wanted to say is that, that I think if you're multilingual, you have access to, more knowledge in the sense that you can, you can, sometimes one is, especially at a younger age, one is hesitant in articulating, queries, questions in a language which is not your mother tongue or a language you're comfortable in. So if you're able in a multilingual classroom or in a multilingual scenario, you're able to do that. And that, of course, expands your knowledge base. You become a better learner.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Very well put. Very well put. But then I also have a comment on here in the chat box, and you also probably hinted it, that it's okay for multilingual education or using more than one language in the classroom is okay for younger classes, early years, but not later on. Something of that kind is coming up, but we'll address this. We'll come to that. I think somebody raised their hand, but we'll go ahead now, go on now. We'll keep now. I just want to tell you that while the different policies, language policy, as well as the education policies right from 1968 have emphasized this, somehow it's become necessary for even the 2020 policy to emphasize this even more. So somewhere the interpretation of this, like we are trying to struggle with what it actually means, and more importantly, implementation has become quite a challenge, quite an issue. So that's why this policy has had to emphasize this even more. But let's wait and see how the policy will support us teachers to interpret it and implement it, because the curriculum, the syllabus, and especially exams will have to be modified according to the multilingual policy if they really mean what they are saying. Therefore, what I'm trying to say is, from 1968 onwards, somehow we have only done lip service to it. We have not given its due importance, let alone in the classroom or the curriculum or assessment. So it's a bit serious in my view. So here we are taking responsibility as teachers. I think I'm trying to say, I'm squarely putting ourselves in that thing of responsibility. We are responsible for interpreting it and implementing it in our classrooms. Of course, we are guided by what is mandated at the university level, board level, and so on. But still, it's a teacher with her attitude, right approaches, right strategies, who will be able to implement it properly. So that's so far the kind of the background or the context setting up that I've tried to do. What is multilingualism and what is multilingual approach and so on. But as we go along, when we show you some actual examples of this, I think it will become clear what we mean by implementing it and interpreting it correctly. So I would like to invite Tulika, but before that, I'll just give you one brief introduction to what's coming up now. We are going to show you some quick videos. All these videos happen to be from school classrooms, but that's because we did a big project in school classrooms in India. Cambridge University took it up with support from British Council, and we went ahead and trained teachers in multilingual strategies, because the project very clearly pointed to how learning happens better at the conceptual and cognitive level when children are taught through their mother tongue, taught through their first language. And very clear recommendations came up. And we went and tried out some strategies with teachers. Teachers also were quite convinced when we held a workshop, and we want to show you some of those clips, video clips, where we recorded their classes in government school, in a local low-cost private school, and so on. So we want you to watch this. So we got 3 teachers showing some strategies, and please look at these strategies with a sort of open mind, in the sense you might say, oh, this is for a school classroom, how does it help me? But the strategies are sort of useful across levels of education. That's why we would like you to keep thinking of extrapolating these whatever strategies that these teachers are using to your own context, your own tertiary level, to see if that any of these is useful. And that's what the discussion is going to center around from now on till we finish. So first lesson is by a teacher who is, I don't want to name her, but we have named her. Her name is Jyoti. She is teaching social studies. Please notice how many languages are used in her class. It was done in Hyderabad. Many of them speak Telugu, but then there were quite a few languages in the classroom. And it's an English medium school, a low-cost one. Low-cost, I don't know if that there is a kind of a definition available for that. Parents in desperation for their children's good education send their children to English medium schools, which are hardly English medium, with even teachers not knowing enough English to teach through English or English language, but then that's what it is. There are hundreds and hundreds of low-cost private English medium schools in the country, and they would rather send them to these than to a government school. Please watch what languages does the teacher use for what purposes. And the question that you have to keep in mind is, can you think of a task in your class, BA, first year, second year, BSc, whatever class you teach, where you can scaffold learning using students' home languages? Okay, so the project link is here, and then the films are also, full films are here. We are only showing you very small clips here. Okay, so I'm just starting the video and then giving it over to Tulika. Tulika, at this point, do you want to add something before I go on to the film? Tulika? Is she?
Tulika, ma'am, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Would like to hear anything that you wanted to add, which you want to emphasize more or sort of modify whatever I've said.
No, I agree to what you're saying, but I thought these small video clips are very, very important. And I'd request all the participants to actually look at it and respond to it, because this is the mainstay of our presentation. We want you to look at it to understand what we mean when we say multilingual education or multilingual teaching in the classroom, or the rest of it.
Yeah.
So I think we can carry on.
Okay, this link here in blue is actually a book produced by the British Council, but not sitting in an office, but then a few experts from South Africa, from Australia, from elsewhere, and India got together and got teachers in India to try out some Multilingual Approaches. It's an excellent book. It's a resource book, but it's also got videos and other things. And this link here is the Cambridge University project link, Multilila project, multilingual and multiliteracy project done in Patna, Delhi, and Hyderabad over 4 years. And we produce some films based on that. And that is what you're going to see here. But this book is a fantastic resource. Although it is looking at school classrooms, you could go and do a book by video recording some of your classes, some of your students and their talk and everything. I think it will be a fantastic next step. I'll be very, very happy to see that kind of a book. Okay, here is the link. Here is the video.
What is that belongs to? You just lift your hand.
Please make it full screen, ma'am.
Yeah.
Me, what is that belongs to? You just lift your hand. Lift your hand up. Right. You tell me, Tanya. Deepavali. Right?
Yes, miss.
Okay. Deepavali or Diwali, we call it as Diwali. Diwali also called as Festival of Lights. Okay. During this festival, what will do generally? Anyone? Tell me. We burn crackers, okay. Telugu. Em chestam cheppu. దీపాలు పెడతాం ఇంకా చెప్పు కొత్త డ్రెస్సెస్ వేసుకుంటాం ఇంకా చెప్పు రైట్ we do puja right pray to whom we God Lakshmi right Lakshmi Devi we do puja to Lakshmi Devi. Okay, do you know why we celebrate this festival? Do you know the background? Right. Very good, very nice. Okay, so and what we do on that day, I mean, we wear new clothes and we'll do puja to Lakshmi and we'll prepare sweets, right?
Yes, miss.
How many are very interested in eating sweets?
Yes.
Everyone, right?
Yes, miss.
Right. What is the special food we prepare on that day? Your mother bought payasam, right? You like payasam?
Yes, miss.
You also like, right? Any other food?
Motichur laddu.
Motichur laddu, very good.
Bundi laddu.
Bundi laddu.
Besan
laddu. Only laddus? All laddus only we eat. Lemon rice. Spices. Okay. So on that day, we prepare your parents prepare what? Sweets. And one more thing we'll do. What is that? Burning crackers. We wear clothes. Decorate, right? On Diwali especially, people make their home very colorful, right? They repair the homes, they make everything new, right? Colorful. They make some colored rice on the floor to make rangoli. You see that? Yes, rangoli with What, Ananya? आप क्या करते दिवाली पर?
दिवाली पे हम लोग गणेश लक्ष्मी की पूजा करते हैं और मिठाई खिला के फिर पटाखे वगैरह चलाते.
I'm going to show you one other small clip. It's a continuation, but comes at a slightly later point. I'm just going to show you that. They've all been given group work. Mind you, this is a social studies class in an English medium school. 1 second. I just want to tell you that the task is where they had looked at Diwali, Ramzan, that is Eid, and Christmas. So they're making 3 columns and writing what they do, what they wear, what sweets they eat, and so on. That's the group work task. They're sort of making a comparison of different festivals. Okay. I'll just bring it here.
We will pray Bonalu, Manakali. Lord, we will go to we will go to temple.
Okay. Now what you have finished your work, right? Whatever your discussion and everything. So what you have to do, whatever the festival that you have chosen, you have to tell about that festival. Okay, anyone from your group stand up and tell to other children so that they can listen what you have written.
నేను క్రిస్మస్ గురించి చెప్పాలనుకుంటున్నాను. క్రిస్మస్ క్రిస్టియన్స్ సెలబ్రేట్ చేసుకుంటారు. They will prepare sweets, biryani, cakes.
Right.
They will decorate their house. They will pray to Jesus Christ. They will sing songs. Santa Claus will come and give gifts.
From this group, Chandana,
హోలీ హిందూస్ ముస్లిమ్స్ అందరు సెలబ్రేట్ చేసుకుంటారు. అది కలర్ఫుల్ ఫెస్టివల్. కలర్స్ తెచ్చుకొని ఆడుకుంటారు, వాటర్ తో ఆడుకుంటారు. ఇంకా ఫ్రెండ్స్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళి కలర్స్ పూస్తాం.
Ananya.
Okay, that's it. I've stopped it there. So the questions. Jyoti's class. Tulika, would you like to take over? Hi, Tulika.
Yeah, ma'am is there in the room.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you looked at this video just now of a social studies lesson, and as Rama had told you, we had asked you to notice how many languages were being used. So could you just tell us what were the languages that were being used in the classroom and how was it being used? Participants, teachers? Okay.
Participants, this is an interactive session, so please send in your responses in the chat box or raise your hand so that we can unmute yourself.
Right. Because we need to have your responses. Telugu, Tamil, English, and Hindi. Somebody's just said yes, excellent. And did you all also notice when English was being used or when Telugu was being used? What was the teacher doing when using different languages? Was she giving instructions in a particular language and were the students responding in a different language? What was happening in the classroom? Okay. Teacher was interacting, I can see. More than 3 languages, yes. But how was it being used? That's the question that I would like you to respond to. Appreciating the answers, okay. Okay, let's go to the next question, which can you think of a task in your class where you can scaffold learning using students' home languages. So most of you are either English teachers or Hindi teachers or maths teachers, Sanskrit teachers, physics teachers, geography teachers. So yes, Shivani says it seems like the teacher was trying to make the students comfortable in speaking in whichever language they're comfortable with, right? So, okay, I think we'll move to the next slide, Rama, because they've seen it and we've given them some food for thought on this.
Yeah.
Maybe we can go on to the next slide, the next video clip that you have, and then.
Okay. Just want one comment or a suggestion for the next slide. While, of course, the teacher is making them feel comfortable because their mother tongues are being used or they can express it better, there are also some strategies she's using, like giving instructions, she's clarifying instructions, or she is providing maybe vocabulary items, or students are able to come up with better expressions because they have been given a chance to do that. I don't know if they would have been able to say these things if they had been allowed only to speak in English. So expression, articulation, and so on. So I just keep that in mind, the strategy in mind. You know, as a blanket statement, you can see that a lot of mother tongues are being used, but then for what purpose? That's if you can focus on that.
Yes, Rama, and another thing, the opportunities that are being given for to the students, that's also important because it is not a monologue in the classroom.
That's right.
Students are constantly interacting with the teacher, picking up words of what the teacher is saying, using it when they are talking. So these are strategies that students are using when they are in conversation with the teacher. So we need to, look at all these things when we are in our own classrooms.
Okay, so this is a second example. Tulika, should we show this or go on to the third one? Because
no, we should show this, Rama. This is very good.
Okay, this is from a government class. Please read this first part, which will give you the background. And we would like you to answer these two questions when you answer this, when you watch the video.
Yeah.
Shall I go to the video now? Have you seen the context? It's a primary school with a lot of Lombardi tribal community. So talk of diversity, talk of inclusion, exclusion, all that's happening. Some teachers don't even know that there are that many students speaking Lombardi language in the classroom. Do you, for example, I'm not trying to challenge you, but do you really know how many languages your students speak? You can do a small activity on that actually. We'll later show you an activity that the teacher is doing because she didn't know how many languages they actually spoke or wrote or read, because it happens at different levels. Okay, here is the clip. I'll show it to you. This is a teacher.
Not introduced yet, very new to them. And it's part of a 30 days program of our attainment of basic competences that we are dealing with the variety of vocabulary and then with the minimum of the transaction in 2-3 exchanges that where they can use these vocabulary in their daily life, of course, and also telling about their likes and dislikes and how they, where they see in particular all this. Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning, everyone. Your name Jappunama Gurtunda? Shall we recall yesterday's class? No, you don't want? Okay, our lesson is on vocabulary. Yes, vocabulary.
Here, she is asking them to read what is written. The teacher displays some charts showing the words the children have been learning in English, which is the target language, and the two most common home languages, Telugu and Hindi. So they are getting a kind of a comparative picture of this. This is a continuation of that. We have just chosen some clips, some parts of the video.
గుర్తు తెచ్చుకోండి. అందుకే ఇప్పుడు ఇది ఇస్తా కదా, చూసి గుర్తు తెచ్చుకొని నాకు ఒక్కొక్కరు వచ్చి ఇక్కడ ఒక్కొక్కరు ఇది చెప్పి చూపించాలి. ఓకే, ఎవరి గ్రూప్స్ వాళ్ళు ప్రాపర్ గా కూర్చోండి. ఏం ఫ్రూట్ ఉంది, ఏం వెజిటబుల్ ఉంది, ఏమున్నాయి, అది ఫ్రూటా కాదా, వెజిటబులా కాదా చెప్పాలి. పేరేమో చెప్పాలి. సుజాత కార్డ్ తీసుకుంటారు కదా, అందరు ఇక్కడ వినండి. కార్డ్ తీసుకున్నాక మీరే నాకు చెప్పాలి ఏ కేటగిరీ అని. విచ్ కేటగిరీ? బర్డ్, wild animal, flower, pet animal, vegetables, fruits, or is it a vehicle, or is the family member? ఏది అన్నా మీరే చెప్పాలి. ఓకే, వచ్చి మ్యాచింగ్ చేసి చూపించాలి. అక్కడ అన్ని చూడాలి, ఒక్కొక్కటి కాదు అన్ని నీకు వచ్చిన అన్ని కార్డ్స్. బనానా నీకు తెలిసిపోయిందని చూపిస్తా అంటున్నావు, మరి అది కూడా చూపించాలి అన్ని. ఓకే, అన్ని చెప్పు. కరెక్ట్. ఎస్ నువ్వు అవును, వెరీ గుడ్ ఇమ్రాన్. ఇది మిరపకాయ ఇంగ్లీష్ లో ఏమనాలి? మిరపకాయ ఇంగ్లీష్ లో ఏమనాలి? క్యాప్సికమ్ కదా. చూడు, ఇంకా ఈ కార్డ్స్ చూడవా, ఇది చూడవా. నువ్వు ఈ రెండే పట్టుకుంటావా? కాదు, ఇవి కూడా చూడాలి. చీకు ఈజ్ ఏ ఫ్రూట్.
Okay. Yeah, so Tulika, what was the focus of the class, and if we can get all of them,
yes,
some of them at least.
Yes, so teachers would like you to look at the two questions that we have on the screen. What was the focus of the class? And the second was, what language does she use to give instructions? So could you please sort of share it with us? What was the focus of the class? Shubha, could you ask the teachers to participate and help us to go forward?
Participants, let's make this session interactive, and you will learn more if you interact with our experts. So please come up with your replies. Instead of writing nice videos, of course, we all understand, we can appreciate the effort that has been put by our experts. We would appreciate if you could answer, what's the focus of the class. And
yeah, they're writing interesting answers. Yeah, I would like to ask Satish Salve, how बहुत ही सुंदर वीडियो कैसे बन गई है, बताइए थोड़ा. कैसे बनी ये सुंदर, कैसे बनी? If Satish Salve could say that. Yeah,
Ravinder, are you there? Can you unmute some of our participants?
Participants can raise the hand. I can't unmute them randomly, ma'am.
Okay. They know about raising their hand?
Or if they don't, they can write on the chat box also.
Okay. So we can't hear them ever. We can't make this session a multilingual session. तेलुगु और अंग्रेजी ठीक है, तेलुगु अंग्रेजी और हिंदी भी है ना? Yeah. Okay.
Focus was to let students actually know the contents in all the three languages.
Vocabulary, particular vocabulary items.
Yeah, the focus was basically to talk of particular vocabulary items and the three and what they are said in the three different languages, the most three different common languages, that is Hindi, English, and Telugu.
Yeah.
Okay. Ajit Kumar says if they know Telugu, they will come to know the same in English and Hindi. How is that possible, Ajit? Could you tell us? Ajit? could write in the chat box, you could respond to that question.
Harika says the focus was to correlate the objects in 3 different languages so that through the connection, memorization could be facilitated.
Yes, right.
And I?
Yes, Ajit.
Yeah, since the focus is to understanding the vocabulary,
Yes.
so if a student knows Telugu, then he or she will come to know about the same in Telugu or Hindi or the other different languages, because since it is the idea is to get to know about the let the students know about a particular fruit which is called X in Telugu, so Y in English and Z in Sanskrit. The idea is to let the students know actually and develop the vocabulary. I think this is what you wanted to know from me.
Thank you, Ajit. Yeah. Anybody else? The second question is, what language does she use to give instructions? And why do you think, whatever language she is using, why do you think she's doing that? Maybe we could be an extension to that question. Like Shikha Srivastav says, the main thing is understanding concepts. She said something before that as well. What undergraduates feel.
तन मन से पढ़ रहे हैं. That's true. Yeah, that's the Sangeeta is saying, give answer in your own words. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but then even for undergraduates, do you want to do this, or is this not allowed for undergraduates?
Precisely.
This is, of course, we are showing you a primary class. If you strongly believe that this is just for primary, then we want to talk to you. We want to address that issue. Because Sangeeta is saying, she says to students, I believe even older students, to give their answers either in Hindi or English, because if you are looking at content, then we would like them to express it in any language. Yeah, that's true. In fact, one thing that was has come through very clearly in the projects and in our experience is that if you don't know your mother tongue well, suppose they have begun their English medium education from grade 1, even before they became literate in their mother tongue, then their concept clarity, their cognitive development is all affected very badly. It's very badly affected, because there's a lot of research to show that you need to learn in the mother tongue. Now, you are dealing with students who might have come through English medium or who might have come through their mother tongue medium. Try to look for differences in their understanding, in their conceptual clarity, and see if what we are saying is true. There are some students, of course, who have a lot of exposure to English because of their home background or because of their socioeconomic status or whatever, but we are not quite talking about those. We are talking about the usual students that we deal with, a large majority of them coming from maybe, poor backgrounds, for whom this is a challenge, dealing with the language which they didn't know earlier, but they have studied somehow and produced yes-no answers and memorized answers and passed. But their concept development is poor.
Yes.
Okay, on to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not introduced yet, very new to them.
Sorry. Now, do we want to show, shall we show only one here, because we will run out of time. It's already 12:30. Just show one class, I think. Or we just show and move on.
That's right. At least we can show them, because this is a clip from completely high-end English medium school. So maybe they'll just look at it and then we'll move on to the other slides.
But we still want them to see, is any of this doable in their class? Maybe at their level, but similar activities, are they doable? Okay.
Yeah, and we want them to think about it also. When we end the conversation, this present, we want them to respond to this question of whether it's doable in their class or is it just, looking at it and taking it in just like that. Yeah.
Okay. Here it is. One second. This teacher is trying to do a linguistic survey, if you like. I mean, it's a big term, but then she's trying to find out how many people speak English very well or just about, or read and write and speak. So the blue one is about writing and speaking, and red means they can just about speak and understand. So how many students do Telugu? How many students do know what language? And she was herself surprised that there were children with those languages. She didn't know. She's a regular teacher of the school, but before she was introduced to this multilingual education and strategies and so on, she says, I didn't know this. So maybe you would like to do a survey to find out how many students of yours do speak or read, write which language. You will be surprised to know that. Okay, how about quickly?
Who are the Tamil speaking children? Have they given green or red? Yadharth will give both. How many greens are there for Tamil and how many?
They have made a chart on this side of the wall.
Only 2 green marks or red marks? Any red mark? Five are there, see? Only 2 children know Tamil very well. 5 people know. They can only speak. Who are those children? Who have given green for Tamil?
Yadharth and Bala.
Bala and Yadharth. What about you, Ma? You know a little bit only. Can you say something in Tamil? Just a sentence. How is the weather? No, just say how is the weather today in Tamil. Can you say it a little louder? Look here. Huh? It's raining today. What is rain in that sentence? Oh. Inniku means? Today. Thank you. And next comes Marwadi language. How many of you know it? Sia, can you go from that side and count? The greens. How many greens for Marwadi? 4 greens. Okay. Then Marwadi, how many reds? 2? 3 reds for Marwadi. So,
okay, I'm going to another one where they're doing a graph based on the numbers. This is a kind of table to graph activity, which we usually try and teach our undergraduate students. Let's have a look at this.
1 and 2. 1, 2. Am I correct? Can you see from far? 2. Now next is 5. So where should I go? Can someone from you come here and show? Tamil ki manam 5 mark cheyalante ela sariga chudtanu cheppaledu. Can you explain it like that? Where did she put the chalk? At number 5. And then you make a dot. Don't go over it. Next to it. Yes. Wait. Okay, do this way. Is this correct? You go to your place. Then they can see all of them. Did you all understand what to do? Yes. Take out your pencils and your foot rulers.
Okay, so that's it. These are the questions. So she's trying to draw a graph. I mean, children will draw a graph based on how many people know which language to what extent. So at the end, they have a very good graph in each of their, that drawing sheet. And then, of course, they have a discussion and all that. All these films are available online. I've given you the link earlier. Those who are interested, please go and see those and see if you can also do a video of the classes where you use multilingual strategies, and we'll be very happy to come and video record you. Yeah. Okay, Tulika. Tulika, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there, Rama.
Okay.
So so long we've just been seeing a lot of videos in the school
context. Yeah.
So now I thought maybe since you all are college teachers, you'd like to see how it works in the college. Is it possible? Can we do it? What does multilingualism mean in a college arena? How do we function? These are things that we need to look at at the tertiary level. So I'm going to, I want you to listen to these 4 conversations. I'll give a small background, a short background to what these conversations are all about. So the first, see, these conversations have been recorded in our English class, which I teach, and most of the students have studied English till class 10. And in these recordings that you will hear, these audio recordings that you will hear, students are trying to practice their speaking skills using a variety of strategies. So I want you to listen to each one of them, and then I want you to comment on it to see how it works and what you have to say if they use different languages in the classroom. So the first video is about 2 girls. There's one girl who is rushing for her class and she bangs into another girl. The second girl falls down and she's very upset about it. And then the first girl is apologizing profusely and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So can we have the video, Rama? Audio?
Not audio. Yeah. No, sorry.
Accident. Doom. I am sorry. Sorry, please, sorry. I am late in my college. Please, sorry. Please, sorry. Ma'am, please. Ma'am, I am very late in my college. Ma'am, please help me. Ma'am, please. Ma'am, I am very, 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 very late, ma'am. Ma'am, I am not explaining you, ma'am. I am very late, ma'am. Ma'am, I am sorry. Ma'am, please. Ma'am, I am sorry. This incident, ma'am, we just चोट को बताती हूँ. जैसे कि मैं हिंदी बताती हूँ कि मुझे अभी चोट लगी जस्ट, तो मैंने उनको कुछ भी नहीं कहा और मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा लगी है. फिर भी मैंने कहा it's okay, then you go.
Okay, should I play the next one or you want to say something?
Nothing much. The second and the third one are basically students who are describing a photograph. So please listen to it and see how the kind of language students are using in both these audios. Yes.
Yeah, in English parlance, we call this picture description or picture composition. And it's a very important sort of skill because they transfer from picture, that is visual, to words.
Yes.
I think one needs to learn that.
Yes.
So here it is.
This scene is village. This scene is village. These scenes are very beautiful. Many women watering.
Sorry, what are they doing?
Pot.
What?
Watering the pot. Pani.
Filling
Filling the pot
with?
with water. She is very cheerful.
Okay. So
What
the
one is? Yeah. Okay. Rama.
picture is a very clear one, actually. We have not brought the picture to show you. It's a very simple picture of a village scene, but then they are lost for words, they are lost for structure, and this is an undergraduate class.
Food from jungle. So very many girls food like women and children. So provide full thali and roti and rice and dal. So ma'am, all people are very happy to eating food. And so ma'am,
Why do you think it's a langar?
ma'am, because ma'am, langar provide many food of pupils, ma'am. So then I will go langar, and so we sit. Sit
On the floor?
on the floor, and they provide a full plate of food and roti, chawal.
What about their dress?
And well, these are very simple and nice white suits and blue pajama. Ma'am, they look like a help to eat the food for many people. So then,
Okay.
Particular serial which you like to watch a lot?
Sorry.
Can I just? Yeah. So the fourth audio is where this girl is talking about a particular TV serial that she enjoys watching, and she's trying to give me reasons or give us reasons why she likes to, why she likes a particular serial, and what is it that interests her in that serial. So yes, Rama.
Particular serial which you like to watch a lot?
Ashok Samrat jo aata hai, Chakravarti Ashok Samrat.
You like that?
Yes, ma'am. Because my family all see, all people's were seeing.
So you like it because your family likes it, or do you like it because of some other reason?
Families like is, ma'am, puri family dekhti hai isliye puri.
But
all
why
families.
do you like it?
Ma'am, because in the serial, the Ashok play very important role to Ashok Samrat. मैम जो उसका रोल है वो बहुत पसंद आता है, मतलब अच्छा है. तो मैम उस सीरियल से हमें कुछ सीखने को मिलता है.
क्या मिलता है सीखने को आपको?
मैम जैसे कभी हार से मतलब हार के कभी मतलब
yeah. What? Even after losing?
Losing the
battle
got pain.
It still is a victory.
Yes,
are you saying that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. So shall I go to the next slide, Tulika?
Yeah. Do you think we should take the reactions first?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the question.
Yeah. What strategies did the teacher use in the class to facilitate their speaking? This is the question. And since all of you have heard all the 4 audio clips, can you share with us what were the strategies that the teacher used to facilitate their, to improve or support their proficiency, whatever you would like to call it, in the classroom? Can you share it with us? You can even speak out if you wish to.
I think Anita Singh has already written something. She has said that when the teacher cooperates, the students are confident enough not to feel shy or suffer any inferiority complex.
So Anita, what do you mean by cooperating? When you say the teacher cooperates, what does that mean? Are you the teacher is also speaking in Hindi, or what is she doing? Or
she is referring to the use of the vernacular as the instructor turned to Hindi, you know.
Okay. So you're saying one is this, that we allow the students to speak in their mother tongue or their L1 when they are speaking in English to help them to be able to speak better, right? Okay.
But Shikha is saying dukhad. Kyun dukhad?
Okay. Shikha?
Shikha.
Okay.
क्या दुखद है इधर? She was just asking. उसका थोड़ा Shikha can make a further comment down there in the chat box.
Yeah. What is dukhad? क्यों कह रही हैं वो? That's right. That's right.
Okay. So allow the students to speak in their mother tongue was one strategy.
Yeah.
What's the other strategy? What are the other strategies the teacher used? Cooperative meaning, I think, considerate, probably sympathetic. I think that's what she means.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Because if you are very strict and you say only English, then it's unlikely that you will get any answer, or people, the kind of struggle they have for expressing, that won't come through. They'll only give you ready-made short sentences.
Yes, yes.
They
And
won't negotiate the language.
Yes. I think it is important that we allow them to use their mother tongue. At least they're able to share their ideas, their views. And you must have noticed that in all the 4 audios, the teacher was providing them with some kind of vocabulary in English, giving them single words, and encouraging them. So I think that goes a long way in helping them to speak in English. That's what I feel.
Yeah. But their structure or the ability to pull together words into a sentence or a half a sentence is so limited that very often students just make do with and matlab and lekin or but and all that. But so somehow it stops them from learning the language well. Therefore, we'll need to think of strategies to get them to say their complete ideas in one language. Maybe it takes some help, but the teacher is here scaffolding them. So I just wonder what the next strategy is. Keep prompting the students. That's right. Kept prompting. Yeah, you don't let them sort of stop and be done with it. You have the patience and give time. How much time it takes for you to focus on one student. So you may not be able to do this in a large class forever with each student, but think of ways of doing that. It's so important.
Yes, maybe we can use group work or pair work.
That's right.
So that would help the students to move forward instead of they keep not being able to say anything.
Yeah.
Some kind of strategies we need to employ.
Encourage them by providing appropriate vocabulary in English. That was one strategy.
Yes.
Did not insist that they speak only in English. Although it's an English class, but they don't speak. So
that's right.
So obviously, the teacher is trying to bridge that gap from some English and Hindi to more of English and more of English, right? You sort of take that as a continuum.
Yes.
Progression. Yeah. What do you think would happen if the teacher insisted that they speak only
in English? Yes. I think you all can respond to this. What do you think would happen if the teacher insisted that they speak only in English? Would they be tongue-tied? Would they not say anything? Would they just fumble?
Shanti Bhushan's question I would like to answer, but later. Yeah, you really put your finger on the problem. why three language formula has been a failure. I don't know if you want to say it's been a failure, but anyway, it's a thing that we language teachers need to.
And also, yeah, and I think somebody also said that as teachers, we are not teaching well. Someone said that over there. So I think we need to take this onus, this responsibility that we need to develop strategies and we need to find ways so that students are able to speak the language. Yes.
Yeah.
The next point, Rama.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yeah. Is it a good strategy to allow students to use their home language in L1 while trying to improve their proficiency in English? This is a much debated question, so I would like all of you to respond to it. All of us are college teachers, and we know how our students struggle with the language. So do you think it's a good strategy to allow them to use their language, home language or the L1, and when and for how long? How do we go about it? I mean, these are issues that we need to talk and discuss and come to some kind of a consensus on this. So what do you think of this, teachers? You would have a similar problem in your own classes. You may be teaching any other subject, but this could be a problem in your own classes. So how do you resolve it in your own class? What do you do? Maybe some of you could share your experiences or your ideas with all of us. It would enrich all of us. Ajit says the idea should be to develop the communication skill of students. So teachers should allow them to speak in their mother tongue. Is that what you're saying, Ajit?
Yeah.
Okay. So then if they keep speaking in their mother tongue to communicate, how will they develop their proficiency in English? Ajit? It's just a question.
That's a big question, because we are also facing these kind of issues in our language teaching classes,
yes,
where it's very difficult. I mean, of course, all of us are very encouraging, and we keep motivating our students to pick up more vocabulary through various means. And just as you mentioned, few exercises like picture one, where you provide them with a picture, okay, so that they can have a look at the picture and visualize it, and then they can express themselves. But yes, using native language or one's mother tongue in an English classroom, to which extent? I mean, it's a very problematic thing. I mean, up to a certain extent it's fine, but we have to give them environment. We have to familiarize them with the vocabulary, with the situations, with the various context, in which they can comfortably speak the second language, right? So I mean, but I would like to know it from you. I mean, I think I'm voicing the concern of most of the language teachers. How far, I mean, the use of the vernacular is justified in an English teaching class.
Okay, can I say something?
Yes, Rama.
Yes,
but then we don't have much time. Shubha, is it? We need to stop at 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah. After that, we can take up questions of our participants.
So very quickly, now the audios that we have made you listen to are typically English classes, and these students are engaged in a conversation, one-to-one conversation. I really don't have any idea of what the others are doing when the teacher is sort of talking to one student, or maybe others are listening. It could be in a situation where it's just a one-to-one and the others are doing something else. In any case, when you're thinking of helping them to become more proficient in English, which is one of the main goals of any English teacher, then multilingual strategies, would that be an effective way to do it, or will they get stuck with using a lot of Hindi because they get used to it? And so when do we wean them away from their mother tongues? And how do they make the transition from the kind of audios you listen to, where they can't express even a complete one sentence in English. That's where they are at. But please, let's face the reality. These audios are clearly telling us where many of our students are. Our English proficiency course we ran in Delhi University, there were many English medium students who could barely talk, or who could barely read properly, who could barely listen to things and understand. So, and of course, the mother tongue medium students, Hindi medium or the other medium students had much more of a challenge. So the reality is where they are not able to. So we'll need to begin with a lot of mother tongue use and help them to sort of become more fluent in whatever language they have, and then slowly take them through different stages of proficiency to where we want them to be. It won't happen in 1 year. What hasn't happened in 10 years or 12 years of their school cannot happen in one undergraduate year, because they come with a lot of challenges and issues. We need to address each of those and all that. So while I'm saying that it's quite a tough thing to make them become very proficient in English, we are here, the focus of this presentation here is, should we shy away from using their language in order to increase their fluency, thought processes, and to be able to express freely, lose that diffidence that they have. You won't believe how diffident students are. They may not appear so, but they are not able to speak up. Somebody said this in the chat box. They should speak up. Or do you want them to be just silent and get out of your class and get out of the first year, second year, third year without being able to gain any proficiency? Definitely not. Therefore, we'll need to do something. So for that, we'll need another strategy, in my view. Another session to say, how do we wean these people, or how do we enable them to wield this language with less and less of mother tongue? That we are very conscious of that. But here in this session, we are trying to say, please don't feel shy to use their mother tongue, so that you can get them out of the shell, as it were, from the cocoon. I think it requires a lot of effort and time, the way these audio clips show us. But then imagine their morale being boosted. A student whose morale is boosted can go and find language outside outside the classroom. Please don't think that your English textbook is enough to sort of give them all the proficiency they need. It's very tough. So I'm just saying that we need another session to understand how to teach English better. Here we are trying to say how to use mother tongues and use multilingual strategies so that we can include them more and not, discard them or say, now you're good for nothing, or sorry, this is all you can do, kind of thing. So
yes, Rama. Yeah, and I think, carry on.
That's all. So I wanted to say what the focus of this session was.
Yeah, and I think the next slides will at least give you some answers to how we can do it as far as assessment is concerned. Let's just finish this.
Yeah, no, we'll first look at this. The question of assessment.
So it's very important that knowing a language is not only about teaching but also about assessment. So we know that given that right from very early years of schooling, children are assessed on their proficiency in individual and separate languages, and the whole idea of encouraging use of multiple languages together seems to be problematic. And we have experienced this as college teachers, that when students come to our English classes or any other class, whether it's a history class or a political science class, when they want to express themselves in English, they find it very difficult, because initially they have been assessed only in individual or separate languages, and somewhere we are not giving them credit, or we are not accepting the fact that they know more than one language. They are not monolinguals, they are multilinguals, and we need to accept that and give them credit for it. So I think that's an important point that we need to be looking at after that. So do you see any problem with this? Yes, right. So do you see any problem with this? I think I just elaborated that yes, there is a problem, because the minute we start trying to do this, we are going to be in trouble. And anyway, this whole presentation is about multilingual teaching and multilingual assessment, which we are trying to address. So
and also just to say, we are not separate monolinguals put into one human being.
Yes.
We are multilinguals. We just khichdi word I use. Baljit, in fact, emphasize that word even more. Yeah, we are khichdi people. We are multilinguals. We can't behave like monolinguals, several monolinguals put into one.
Yes.
So there is a difference, you know. So so that is why 3-language formula, where they say one language plus second language plus third language, all separate. The assessment is all separately done. That's not how we function, how we perform. That's doing violence to our multilingualism inside us.
Yes, yes. So we are not monolingual Hindi and monolingual English and monolingual Haryanvi or Punjabi, but we are all together.
That's
so
right.
we need to be assessed as multilinguals and not as monolinguals.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Yeah, this is what we want to show you now.
Yeah. So on this, on the English proficiency course that we ran in Delhi University, we tried. So, you know, when we ran this course and we had a speaking test, we realized that, you know, when we were assessing their speaking skills, we realized that the students were quite clear that they wanted to accommodate their L1 or to recognize that they had their L1 or a L3 or L4, whatever. And so we tried to develop a scale which was a multilingual scale for assessing their performance on speaking. So this is what we did, and part of my research was on this. And here's an example of the scale we developed with actual examples from students' speaking data. So all the examples that I will be showing you, do remember that they're actual data that we gathered while designing the scale. And some of the words that are used are very culture specific, and we need to use them to express ourselves. And at times, you know, the English equivalent at times sounds very alien in a multilingual context. So maybe we'll go to the first slide on the scale, Rama. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the multilingual scale for assessing speaking. The score is a student who uses this kind of language, like जैसे कि मैंने हिंदी में बताती हूँ. And then I've put that in bold in English. For example, I will tell you in my L1. या मैदा को गूंथ कर छोटे लोई बनाकर. So she's trying to tell us how to make puris. So here, this child or the student is speaking completely in Hindi. And so she's not able to even say anything in English. And so a student who talks like this would be getting a score of 0, because there's actually no answer to the questions that we have posed to them. And when we say 0, it doesn't mean that you know, they cannot communicate, but the focus is on speaking. And so I said
speaking English.
English, right? Speaking English. And so we were not able to give them any credit for speaking in this kind of a language. If you all can read, it says मैदा को गूंथ कर छोटे लोई बनाकर पूरी बना लो. So she's telling us how to make puris, and she uses completely Hindi words. So obviously we are not able to give credit to her. But if we go to the next scale, which is score 3, Rama. So here we are saying that the student who gets a score of 3, it's an adequate attempt. And we have tried to define in the left side of the column what use of L2 limited to a few words used colloquially in their L1. So if you see, I'm talking of saying this. Look at the second column where I'm saying I want to do doctory. Now to do doctory is a typical word that we use. What she wants to say is I want to become a doctor. My father also says, okay, if I'm not selected, then like to selection my career in banking sector. Much money giving in bank. So she's talking about what she wants to become later in life. and she said she wants to become a doctor, saying, I want to do doctory. So we have to keep in mind that at least she's able to say something and need to give credit to her. And this word doctory actually is a typical word that we use, like doctory, aata gundna, foundation. These are words that we use typically in a multilingual context, and we seem to understand these words. Something like my father does kheti bari, instead of saying my father is a farmer. So things like this, which they use, we accept that because it's a slow progression that students are trying to make, and they're making some attempt to speak.
I just want to point out that from score 0 to 5, which we will show you, now we have shown you 3, we don't show each level because of lack of time. There is progression in the way language is developing. So people like Shubha and others who are worried about English proficiency getting better, it is definitely, there is progression. So this person is able to say things, use of culture-specific words and sometimes literal translations, but then some errors in grammar, unlike in 0 score script, where they hardly used any English sentences, except I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. There was nothing else. Hesitations and false starts and reformulations are a very important, what do you call that, a backbone of any language learning. And we would like them to, try and struggle and then come up with things that they want to say or write. So there is progression is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Okay, go to the next one.
Next one.
This is a very good attempt.
Yes, very good attempt.
To read, you might have to read it, Tulika.
Yeah. So I'm not reading the one which is there because I want to read another one. Okay. Where I'm trying to say a student who has got a score of 5, and we say it's a very good attempt. So I'll first read out the script and then I'll tell you what I mean when I say this. So it says, I like to watch movies of adventures and love stories. And recently I watched Dawat-e-Ishq. This is also a love story. This movie was basically based on the dowry system, which was nowadays a big issue. This is a social issue, and we have to do something to stop the dowry system, and make strong rules to stop it. Girls were burnt for the dowry, and many marriages not happen because of dowry. The family of boy demand a more dowry, and girl's family cannot afford them, and so marriages were broken. And we have to speak the boy, right? We have to talk with boy about the dowry and clearly mention that we don't give dowry and we are against the system. So this kind of a student who's talking about this particular movie which she has seen and gives her opinion about the dowry system is actually being able to use English in a much better way than the one who got a score of 3. So there's very little use of L1, maybe 1 or 2 words that they're using. And they're confident in using borrowings. Like they're code switching at times, And they also avoid using culture specific words. And they try to find, English equivalents to those words that they have. And the structure and the vocabulary that they're using is, more or less accurate. At times, there's occasional grammatical errors and intelligible in terms of pronouns, pronunciation, and accent, but it requires no effort by the listener. So we consider them to be quite fluent and they are able to communicate and express, but only at the basic level. Should I explain that to them, Rama?
Yeah.
Basic level is students who can, who are able to use a couple of sentences, which is the A2 level of the CEF1, the Common European Framework of Reference that we say no, and where they're able to express themselves in English in a couple of sentences, in a couple of words at times. They're able to make small presentations of half a minute. They're able to carry on conversations of a minute or so with someone else. So these are students who are at the basic level and are able to do these small activities. So that is how we describe the basic level.
So what we need to do, Tulika, now we need to wind up because we are already past the time.
Okay.
So I just want to say that,
yeah.
What are we saying? Students' proficiency is being assessed on the basis of their use of English, as well as the use of their L1 and or mother tongue. So at initial level, like Tulika said, basic level. And those who get a higher grade use L1 minimally, but we do permit use of culture-specific words because that is very special, rajma chawal, jalebi, and so on. Who use, this is a very important thing that we would like you to remember. We give credit to students who use 2 or more languages in their communication at this level, but we want them to go higher, not stagnate there, and be able to use one language if the audience is all of that language. If the audience is of the same 2 languages as I use, then there's no harm in using 2 languages.
Yeah.
Okay, so just showing you the last slide. We are going to leave this slide, this presentation. I think there's going to be a YouTube or whatever. We would like you to revisit it if possible and ask us any question. We'll give you our mail IDs. If you have any new strategies and we would like to try them out and talk to us about it, please do. We'll be very happy to listen to you or come to your class and observe and so on. But we are all the more convinced, and a lot of research says this, that teachers need training in how to use multilingual approaches instead of just the default translation approach or letting students just go on talking in their mother tongue. That's not the only strategy. So we'll need to support our students to develop their languages further. Not just become experts in the Khichdi language. So do you agree that there is more to be done than just listen to one session? I'm sure this is not the only session which will focus on this, but yeah, we would like you to continue with this. Just want to leave you with a story. If you can read this, it's a very interesting story, very touching one.
Yeah, and it talks of how, how important cultures and languages and inclusion in a classroom is very, very important. Read the story. I'm sure you will be able to sort of agree to what I'm saying on this, respecting other cultures.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Professor Tulika. I'm extremely grateful to both of you, Professor Matthew and you, for making such an informative session. And on behalf of all the participants, I have to convey my heartfelt thanks and gratitude for all the information that you shared. And basically, you brought the whole multilingual reality, right before us, in front of us through interesting examples, videos, and and activities. And you also gave us a lot of interesting pointers, as how we can use multilingual strategies in the best interest of students. So there's a lot that we can take away from the presentation. And we are going to ask our participants to give their feedback and also their suggestions and queries if they have any. And we will certainly direct those towards you. And before I, leave the place, I would like to express my vote of thanks for everyone's time and involvement with the important issues and ideas throughout the day with our learned speakers. And my sincere appreciation to our Honorable Principal, Professor Gyantosh Kumar Jhaji, for his guidance and for his involvement. The College Refresher Course Committee for logistical technical support, Convener Vinita Tuli and my colleagues for their enthusiasm, and to our very special participants for their eagerness to learn, debate, and interact in general. I wish everyone a wonderful day ahead. And this is Shubha Divedi taking leave from here, and we will see you at 1:30 for the next session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.